Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Well, happy December. So this past week I went on a quote unquote staycation, where I took a break from doing gig work. I'm still working at Phoenix College at Grand Canyon University, but I took a break from all manners of gig work, including the side tutoring gigs that I sometimes find on Facebook Marketplace, and especially on casting art projects. Although I still did go to one art show to sell what I already had, but I took a break from pouring that, and I took a break from all manners of investing. So no more precious metals, no more uh, strategic metals, and no contributions to my brokerage accounts either. And the reason for that is I blew a couple mental health fuses this past month, and I decided this would be my Christmas present to myself. And it's in range for in terms of affordability. I've already maxed out my Roth IRA for the year. I've already accumulated 2.5 tons of bismuth this year and a few hundred ounces of silver and a little bit of every metal on the periodic table, it seemed like. And I also contributed, aside from the Roth IRA, I also contributed some to my taxable accounts too. So it's not the end of the world for me to stop investing for a month and a half. So I decided that would be my Christmas present to myself. And the reason for that is I blew a couple mental health fuses. First, I haven't been taking good care of my social life. A lot of times I hunker down so that I can take my entire paycheck and plow it into whatever metal is being undervalued at the time, right? Lately, it's been bismuth. Other times, it's been silver, and still other times, other metals I find a steal on, right? Just last month or 2 months ago, I found a steal on some tantalum and some rhenium, and and sometimes the emerging market stocks take a big beating, and I plow my money into that at the cost of all manners of social life, right? I haven't been eating out all year until this past week. I haven't really been eating out, right? And and the second mental health fuse I blew was that I was working with some really toxic alloy. I had learned about what was that called? Woods or Fields metal, and I was making that, and I casted a Ganesh out of it. It's a very low melting point, right? You can kind of keep it in Phoenix, but you probably don't want to take it to an even hotter environment, right? But it was kind of fun to work with, and now nobody could touch it because of how toxic it is, right? And I blew a mental health fuse while doing that because of all the worries of toxicity and all that. The truth is, I probably didn't get poisoned by making that Buddha out of was it woods or fields metal? Somebody correct me. But the truth is, I probably didn't get any poisoning out of that. The problem was that my mental health got seriously damaged from having to take care of the safety precautions from working with that. And then I got this bright idea. I had just recently bought a Geiger counter, and I got this bright idea that household dust was somewhat radioactive, and I got this bright idea of how to separate the radioactive elements from household dust. It's probably mostly polonium 210. And many years ago, I had a friend who showed me how to isolate gold from recycled computer chips. And he gave me a good lasting impression of it. I had gone to his apartment and he had shown me how to dissolve the computer chips and then how to recrystallize the gold out of it. And I asked him where he had bought the muriatic acid that he was using. And he said you can buy it at Home Depot. Now, the problem is that I had just had a falling out with a girl, and actually he was now dating that girl, and she worked at Home Depot. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to be reminded about all that drama. Eventually we did patch things up, but at the time I didn't want to go to Home Depot. And when he said Home Depot, I went And he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, don't go to Home Depot, go to Lowe's, go to Lowe's." And so I never got around to working on the gold. It would be 20 years later. Now my ambitions are a little bit bigger than just gold, right? 5 protons bigger and 8 neutrons bigger as well, right? But I'm actually using more or less the same. I actually did isolate some of the radium. I don't know if it was polonium, but what I did was dissolve. I took the dust from our vacuum bag and dissolved it in piranha solution, which is a mixture of sulfuric acid and hydrogen peroxide. A little bit different than the aqua regia he was using. And the problem is that I'm not sure if I ended up with a solution of the polonium or if it was a suspension. I tried to read online. I know there is a polonium sulfate, but it's unclear if that's what it made, right? And unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of literature on stuff like that, which is why I need to get back to experimenting with it. But again, I blew a mental health fuse because piranha solution's not exactly the safest thing in the world to work with. And then obviously radioactivity is not the safest thing in the world to work with. And all the precautions of working around that, I blew a mental health fuse. And as a result, that's when I decided to begin my staycation. Now, one of the best things that I got out of this staycation was that I was talking about eating out more and taking a break from cooking for myself. One thing that I got out of this is I discovered that it when I first went out to my favorite restaurants, a lot of restaurants really despise dealing with somebody who has food allergies. It's like a burden to them, or at least a lot of people treat it like a burden to them. I got to point out something. You never know. Let's say you work at a McDonald's or you work at even a good restaurant, like let's say it's a Thai restaurant, or you work at even a 5-star restaurant. I don't know what the best. Let's imagine you work at a 5-star restaurant in Manhattan, right, where a meal might cost $1,000. I'm just making this up. You never know if the person you're serving who has a food allergy, and you need to be a little bit more mindful around them. You never know if they're going to be the one who comes up with a cure for cancer, right? And having that one break that day might just be the one break they needed to come up with it, right? And you never know if you're going to develop cancer one day, right? I just had to point that out. Okay, but I was going to a Five Guys, and these guys bitterly resent for some reason, because I've been to many Five Guys around the United States, not even just here in Phoenix. A lot of Five Guys employees really bitterly resent having to change their gloves because somebody has an allergy for some bizarre reason. Especially, there's a certain, I hate to mention it, but there's a certain class of people there who really, really resent having to change their gloves. And you almost have to pull teeth, You first, you go to the cashier, you order whatever food it is. Oh, would you mind changing your gloves? Most of the time, that comment blows right over there. They don't even mention it. And one time I called the assistant manager, or maybe the manager of the restaurant. I said, I had a problem with Michael or whatever, because on the receipt it said the name, right? I had a little problem with Michael today. He was working the cashiers, and I asked him, because I have allergies, I needed the gloves to be changed, and he didn't mention it to the staff behind him. And the assistant manager, whoever it was, said, "Oh, we change gloves all the time anyway. Like, I asked him, well, is it every order? Not every order, but at least every 3-4 orders." "Oh, yeah. Well, if you just touch whatever I'm allergic, at least you should listen to what I'm allergic to, and they just don't pay a whole lot of attention. I'm surprised nothing seriously bad has ever happened at Five Guys. Hopefully not, right? Not that I've heard of, at least. But one thing I did discover was that because I was relaxed and I really didn't care about eating at Five Guys, if push comes to shove, I can always walk out of the restaurant. Because I had that kind of attitude, I was able to be relaxed and persistent, right? Those two are very hard to put together. And usually I get angry when I start having to repeat myself 10 times, 20 times, 30 times. But because I was so relaxed from what I was doing, I was just persistent. It's kind of like teaching at Phoenix College, right? A lot of these students, you have to give the same lesson 10, 20, 30 times. I kind of used that attitude at Five Guys, and I actually got them to change their mind, right? Which is real beautiful because I'm sure I'm not the only one who has had to deal. I'm sure there are a lot of people who aren't even willing to walk into Five Guys because of how frustrating that experience is, right? I'm hoping to bend that curve a little bit. But I'm going to have to think hard about how I handle casting the art and isolating the radioactive isotopes from the household. I really do want to play with that experiment more. I'm gonna do a little bit more reading online before I go back to it. I have a favorite chemistry channel. There's this guy called the Radioactive Drew. He likes to do stuff like that too. I'm gonna do a lot more reading, a lot more watching before I go back to it because I gave myself a significant anxiety attack. I almost had to be hospitalized over stuff like this. Just huge anxiety, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised. Mary Curry, she actually died of poisoning and not from all the anxiety surrounding it. Although at the time she may have not understood the extent of the. If she did, she'd probably die of an anxiety attack rather than polonium poisoning, right? All right. So I'm going to be returning from my staycation. There was a lot of important lessons to learn. Number one lesson I learned was be persistent instead of angry, right? I tend to get angry fast rather than persistent. Just talk and walk out if you need to, and then go back and talk again. And that's what I did at Five Guys. That's what I did at the dining hall at GCU, and I really got what I wanted. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.